seems very relaxed. Feels like he's had quite a, relaxed. I mean, you asked the question there, Roy, about what he expects from this team and how they're feeling going into this.
Yeah, he seems upbeat. Let's hope he's upbeat after a game because the results. And I think it's key to get off to a good start. This Man United team aren't good enough to be chasing points in the next few weeks. And their home record last year was so bad to lose so many home matches. So they've got to get that belief. Now, we're coming here tonight. Have we got real conviction we believe Man United can win tonight? I'm not sure. Hopefully they will do. And you think they'll have enough strength and depth and enough quality going forward to win the game. But you're still not sure. But I think it's key for Man United to get that belief, that confidence with a winning performance tonight.
I mean, as Roy mentioned, obviously improving home form is going to be key to closing that gap towards the top of the table. Manchester United finished in 8th place last season. They were 31 points behind Manchester City. How do they start to go about closing that gap in terms of performances, Gary?
I mean, look, there's no doubt Erik Ten Hag himself will feel fortunate still to be here as the manager of Manchester United, because there was times at the end of last season where you thought he was a sitting duck and it was only a matter of time before obviously he would lose his job, and he obviously won that game against City and everything changed. Look, they were a mess everywhere. Injuries were a mess, the balance of the team was a mess, midfield was an absolute mess, the amount of goals they conceded and shots they conceded on the goal, they didn't score goals. There was very little right about Manchester United last season at all. The only positive was the FA Cup success, so they've got to change everything. It's got to be so much better.
The biggest insult you could say to that United team last year wasn't like they were easy to play against. As a player, that's an insult to you, isn't it? They have to be more competitive, they have to be more tenacious, they have to score more goals, they've got to have that more belief in their defending, a bit more pride in their defending. They can't be as easy to play as last year. They can't be. It wouldn't be tolerated.
I mean, that's why I asked the question to the manager when he came out, in terms of course, they had a lot of injuries last season, and you're hoping from a Manchester United point of view they'll be back. You look at the signings that they've made as well. They've been backed in the transfer market, as he has been every summer. He spent a lot of money here, Erik Ten Hag, and as you rightly said, Kelly, this is his team now. I mean, I think there's 5 players from Ajax who he's signed.
There's another 2 who've come in who played under him at Ajax, which is why I asked the question, because it is young, talented players, exactly like he said.
Yeah, and you go back to sort of what happened last season. Of course, mitigate some circumstances in terms of the injuries, but we see this a lot in football now. When teams have injuries, there's still a sort of style of play that they sort of stick to, that sort of goes through the club. And that's why I asked him that question. Will we see anything different? Because we can't come here tonight and watch Fulham run through midfield and run at that back foot. That just cannot happen tonight. I don't think it will in terms of the setup. Looks like there's a lot of bodies in midfield. But if you come away here tonight ourselves and Manchester United supporters and see the same things that we saw last year, that is down to the manager. He has to have changed that something.
Yeah, and we talked about the way that they potentially could set up this evening, the fact that's not necessarily how they're going to play throughout the rest of the season. What do you think he wants to do ideally, Gary? If he had everybody fit and available, which is the manager's dream, but ideally, what do you think he wants to be doing?
Do you know something, Kelly? I'm not quite sure even he knows now, and we certainly don't know what the system is. We knew when he came to the club what he was going to try and do. In that
Gary, that's a massive worry, isn't it? Do you seriously believe that?
It is. I genuinely do believe that. One thing he won't do is leave Casemiro on his own, and I don't think he'll leave the back 2 unprotected, because I don't think there's a lot of pace at the back in terms of the centre-backs. So there are still a lot of questions unanswered here, and when I look at that squad, I think it's going to be a case of trying to stumble upon a system. I think what's happened against City in these 2 matches, either side of obviously the end of last season and this season, is he feels like he's got something to hang on to, something that the players believe in, and potentially, now can he do that against Fulham at home? Because obviously you can be reactive against City, you can be passive, you can sit back and soak up pressure and then counter-attack, but can they do it here against Fulham, where they've had problems against this type of team? That is still the question to answer.
And for all the money they've spent, the players they've brought in, you still worry about that lack of pace at the back. That can set the tone for exactly your team shape, where the midfielder is going to be, where your attacking players are. So the lack of pace at the back is still a huge worry.
Let's start with Manchester United, who begin their Premier League campaign against Fulham tomorrow, and you can see it live on Sky Sports. We heard from Erik Ten Hag earlier. Let's hear from our senior reporter, Melissa Reddy, right now. Melissa, before we get into Ten Hag not being ready, I hope you are, but let's talk about how active United have been in the transfer market. We've seen Matthias de Ligt come in. We've seen Nusa Mazraoui come in. Are we expecting debuts?
Well, The pair got their first taste of the trademark Manchester weather today, actually. And Erik ten Hag has said they will be in the squad. But are they ready to start? Now, De Ligt and Mazraoui have been part of every training session since they arrived, so fitness is not the issue, but it's how sharp they are in relation to the other options that could make that first 11, and whether they've actually been able to, in what has been a very short period, build up any combination play, chemistry with their teammates, all of these which are quite vital to getting off to a great start in the Premier League. Now, the benefit for both players is that they're very familiar with what Ten Hag requires, both in and out of possession. They're both also very progressive players, so they do suit him. Could that be worth the risk? Where Mazraoui will feature, that's the interesting bit, because while he excels at right back, he's two-footed and very, very comfortable filling out on the left, which will be essential given Luke Shaw's calf injury. Now, Ten Hag doesn't want to rush Luke Shaw back, and he's got quite a few solutions there. So he's explained to us just what he can tinker with there in order to give Shaw the time to recover.
We're looking forward, of course. Luke Shaw, very important player for our team. So yeah, he's massive important, so we want to get him back as soon as possible, but we can't force this process. We can sort problems over the left side with, for instance, Licia Martinez, also Diogo Dalot is capable to play there. But with Mazraoui we have an additional one who can fill in that position as long as Luke Shaw and Tyrone Malacia are not available.
Now, Melissa, it's no surprise that the Premier League starts tomorrow. We've all known that, but Ten Hag has said he's not ready. Should Manchester United fans be concerned about that?
No, I think it's quite honest and actually quite normal. A lot of managers across the Premier League will be feeling like they're not ready for their perfect starting lineup or to enact their vision in just the way they want to, because it's not been an ideal preseason given the tournament football, which means managers haven't had months and weeks to work with their full complement of players. They've had pretty much shy of 10 days to get back just to the training pitches, work on drills. Obviously, two signings that we mentioned coming in right on the eve of the season, so it doesn't give them enough time to acclimatize and be ready to start as strong as they want. United have also had major injury blows to Lenny Yoro and Rasmus Højlund, which has also knocked them back. Luke Shaw, as we mentioned as well, unavailable. So there's quite a few problems that need solving, which is not ideal. But like Erik ten Hag was explaining to us, all clubs will be in this position. So it's not about hiding. It's not about finding excuses. You still have principles that you need to adhere to. You still know the rules out of possession, in possession. And you still know that if you pull on that shirt, you have to show fight, determination, effort. So none of those things change. He does feel that it will take a while for United to hit top stride and perhaps play the style of football, that aggressive, really progressive, where they try to enforce themselves both physically and technically on the opposition. It might take a while to see that, but at the very least, he still expects United to start quite strongly. You can catch a full interview with Erik ten Hag tomorrow morning, running through Sky Sports, and we'll also be live at Old Trafford, building up to the opener of another season. Yay!
Yay, indeed. Bring it on. Melissa, live from Manchester United's training ground. Thank you very much.
OK, we are traversing London here on Total Football. Been with Chelsea, been with Crystal Palace. What about Arsenal? Well, Mikel Arteta is adamant his side can go up another level and win the Premier League after finishing second behind Manchester City for the last two seasons. They begin their new campaign at home to Wolves. Let's head live to our reporter Gary Cottrell, who joins us now. OK, Gary, so quite simply, he seems confident that Arsenal can go that one better and beat City to the ties. But if they are going to do that, do they need to make further moves in the transfer market first?
Well, it's been steady, hasn't it, this transfer window here at Arsenal? 7 have already gone out, so there'll be 2 or 3 more going out before the window closes. Arsenal see it as 3, in their view, in because David Raya has been made permanent. He was loaned, of course, last season. Jurriën Timber, a marquee signing last summer, is seen as a new signing because last season this season was devastated by injury. The good news is he's fit, he's raring to go, he's in the matchday squad for Wolves tomorrow. And joining him, of course, on the left side of defence now is Riccardo Calafiori. How Mikel Arteta keeps both of those happy, occupying the same part of the pitch, will be interesting. But of course, he wants quality in every position right across the pitch, because there'll be around 60 games next season for Arsenal if they go deep into all competitions. And that's the case as well, I think, in midfield. He was asked whether or not he needed, as many supporters, many pundits say, an out-and-out goal scorer as well. He says no, he doesn't think he does. But he does say there is room for one more quality midfielder. And that's why Edu is currently out in northern Spain, trying to secure a deal for Mikel Merino, the Real Sociedad midfielder. I'm told that deal probably will be done, although it's not imminent. It certainly won't be this side of the weekend. And until he is in, Merino wearing an Arsenal kit here at the training ground, given his number, signed on the form, Mikel Arteta won't talk about him. We know that, but we had a go anyway. Does Mikel like Mikel?
If I like myself, you mean?
Mikel Merino.
You know that I cannot talk about any other player.
But that area of the pitch, if you could find somebody that could come and help, because you've got a busy schedule, potentially 60 games or more, a lot of midfielders, but quality is always something you're looking for if you could find the right player in that area, particularly before the window closes.
After the season, we had 2 objectives. The main one and the most important one is make sure that we're still very, very much in love with our players and find ways to improve them, because that's the main thing. And then, okay, if there are certain opportunities in the market to improve the squad, certainly we have to look at that, and that's what we've been trying to do.
The thing we've heard most is, do Arsenal need a striker, an out-and-out 20-25 goal a season striker? Do they?
We have great strikers already. We have a great attacking line. I'm really pleased with them.
And Gary, Mikel Arteta has always had a few unique ways of trying to find those little incremental improvements, those marginal gains to get his squad to the next level. So how is he going to take things to another level this season?
Well, that's what he knows he has to achieve. Obviously, Arsenal have made progress in terms of points gathered every season since Mikel Arteta arrived. 2 years ago, 5 points behind City. Last season, 2 points behind City. On that trajectory, then they could go on and win it this time. But he says they have to be almost perfect. 2024 was almost perfect for Arsenal, wasn't it? 18 games. Won 16 of them, drew the other, lost 1. But they had that wobble around Christmas time, which meant that in the end they fell short of Manchester City. He says, does Mikel Arteta, that the team has another level to reach, in his opinion, and he wants them to break more records in terms of points gathered. And you're right, innovation is the key. Fine margins is the key. There was talk, wasn't there, of him bringing in pickpockets at a recent team meeting. I've checked, I've got everything in my pockets that I went in with. He didn't want to talk specifically about that, but he was asked what other innovations he can bring in to keep the players on their toes. Now, I've checked my pockets, I've got my keys, I've got my wallet, I've got my phone. There's been reports of you trying to get the best out of your players again with your innovations in the summer. How important is it that you keep the players on their toes at all times?
Well, this is the demands that we put internally, that they have to be much higher than anybody can ever think of putting us in any position that we feel the pressure. And that's the level that we have to hit every single day here. And if we do that, obviously our level will increase and everybody will be benefited to that.
Well, Erik Ten Hag said yesterday that Manchester United weren't ready, or words to that effect, for the season, given the kind of summer that it's been with players everywhere. Well, Mikel Arteta says Arsenal are ready. As I say, they play Wolves. Wolves have lost their first game in the Premier League for the last 3 seasons. Arsenal have beaten Wolves the last 6 times that they've met. So it could be a good day for Arsenal fans at the Emirates tomorrow.
Gary, thank you very much indeed.